friends, welcome. I'm here with Mary Clavieres, and she is an executive coach. She's a human design specialist. She's a strategic advisor who bridges the worlds, which is what we love. And she loves to support senior leaders through their growth, their change, their expansion, through making great decisions. And she blends this leadership strategy with human design, with good emotional intelligence training and decision making, so that leaders can lead from clarity and confidence and full alignment. And she is the author of Mind Body Connection Unlocked, and she's the host of Find Yourself, Change Your Life podcast. And I'm just absolutely delighted to have you here. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mellissa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay, how fun. And one way that we connected through our friend Venus is that you are also, I said, oh, you're a corporate convert. And I think you said, yes, I'm a recovering corporate, or like we have our little code words for like, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background, your corporate background, where you've come from, and maybe also what made you shift from your corporate life to the life you're living now.
Yeah, great question. So I am a corporate dropout of sorts, right? I spent about 15 years in the corporate world in pharmaceutical manufacturing. I have a very technical background and always worked in lean transformation, process improvements, all of those types of things. But what always called to me in those projects and working with those teams was the people side of it. Mm-hmm. And how everyone works together or doesn't, and how that impacts growth and change, and what makes people change or keeps them staying the same, all of those great things. And so over the years, as I was working through that, I eventually, turning point, let's say, came after I had my 2 daughters. And this is how it goes.
Everything's different with the kids.
Everything's different with the kids. And I personally had been traveling a lot. I was in a situation that just was not fitting my home life anymore. And I actually at the time had started a product business for women after they have babies or after surgery. It was a product business selling postpartum mesh underwear. What you get at the hospital. Yeah. But you couldn't buy them anywhere at the time. So I sourced and, sourced them and made a product business and built that. And that was kind of something that showed me, following my curiosity and my passions. And I just said, why don't women have this product? What would it take to bring it to market? I had a background in manufacturing. And so I went through that process. And as I was doing that, I never intended to leave my corporate job, but as it got more and more broken, let's say, it was showing me, and I said, okay, it's time to kind of move on from this. And I ended up building that company on the side, and that set me off on an entrepreneur journey of sorts that brings me to where I am now, just with evolution and change and all the things. But I'm really so passionate about helping people wherever they are, whether they're, in a company, they're changing roles, or they're expanding into a new role. And it's like, how do you show up as yourself? You want to still do a great job and connect to your deeper purpose at the same time. Like, we need more people doing that in the corporate space.
Wow, I am like tripping out right now because I keep thinking about this concept of the mesh underwear that literally hold you after you have exploded into a new level of creation.
Yes.
And the fact that you get a little pair of these in the hospital, but then you can't have them anymore because that whole issue is so invisible. And I'm tripping out because I'm feeling like your guide's, your gift is to provide a structure of support for leaders who are growing outside of what they previously thought possible. And that you are sort of this this holding like a nest, like you're able to receive their sharing and their unwinding and their worries and their concerns like a nest, like this mesh underwear for
Yeah.
women who have just birthed, who are in the most transformative moment of our lives. And the fact that you had to work hard to make that available for people, like it seems like there's a through line there with now you're working hard to make this deep enmeshed support available for leaders who otherwise maybe they've got an industry mentor who knows their industry, who can tell them how things have always worked, la 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 la. And maybe they've got a yoga teacher and a breathwork teacher who teach them some practices to open them up. But if they think that they can just go to their spouse and have their spouse be the only person who is their nest of support, this mesh of foundational support, they're going to find out how that doesn't work. And I'm just seeing and feeling you and your gift and recognizing, wow, that is so super rad that your transition from corporate, where you were placed in a role and probably felt somewhat limited in how much of your creative juice and your natural holding are, like, to what you're doing now, which is like somewhat undercover. I would say somewhat undercover spirit work because you're holding their spirit and their transformation under the category of executive coaching, which I totally get because I do a lot of that myself, and people need it so much.
Yeah. I love how you put that together because, yes, that's exactly how it feels. And it is somewhat undercover. And I mean, yes to all of it. But I will say my clients have even told me that, they don't want to go home to their spouse for these things.
Yeah, right. They know it doesn't work.
They know it doesn't work, and they want an outlet where they can go, and someone that has the experience with them, right?
Yes.
That knows what they're going through.
Yes.
Because I've been in corporate, I've done
and
those
that's
things.
the
Like
thing.
it's,
How many coaches and executive coaches and therapists and counselors actually know the business, so that when they speak the stories, how many can actually understand what the hell they're talking about? It's
right.
rare.
It's
It's rare. And you
it's
have an
rare.
engineering background, so you also have a systems mind.
Yes.
So you can help them create systems to support
Yes.
that nest, like to become their own nest. The systems can be, I'll totally get it, and I'm a fan. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
People,
great.
process, systems, all of it. Yeah.
So tell us about the book. How does the book come in?
So the book comes in because, well, I'm very passionate about the mind-body connection. And so many of us are operating from our minds and not connected with our bodies.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I see a lot in my work too, is that people are operating, I mean, most of the corporate world is this way, working from their minds, not from their bodies. So the book is a compilation of stories and experiences, and really simple, because my style is simple, practical, grounded, rooted in reality, but like holding something more to it too, And it's stories and it's activities and reflection prompts and all of the things to support people through their journey to reconnect with themselves. Because even as a guide, as a mentor, as a coach, any word you use, I'm not here to do it for the other person. I hold the space and I share the experiences, but everyone is on their own journey.
Yeah.
Their own path, their own purpose, all of their own things. And so this book is, I look at it as like tools in the toolkit. You grow your toolkit by reading this book and learning these different ways to approach things. And it might be breath work or meditation. It might be values exercises or body tapping or any of these things, right?
Yeah.
And then you choose, you find which ones work best for you and you use those in your life. And it was something that I actually didn't set out. I knew I would write a book one day, but I didn't set out and say like, okay, I'm going to sit down and write this book.
Yeah.
Right? It started to just come to me after like quite a few years of transformation and and travel experiences and all these things. And it started writing itself because I sat down and I was like, all right, I want to get this out. I want to write this. And then after like a couple months and quite a bit of writing, I was like, oh, I guess it's a book,
Accidental. It's an accidental book.
Yeah,
It
like,
sounds so. One of my loves is to normalize the word channeling. My business is Channel Your Genius, the podcast,
yeah,
Channel Your Genius. And I love to hear you and other creatives speak to this process that sometimes, whoosh, it just on the
yeah,
channel, the book wrote itself. And how, let's normalize that. Like,
yeah,
obviously, I imagine that you've done a lot of personal development that's opened that channel and made you
yes,
available for the ease with which that came through.
yes,
But isn't it
yes.
lovely? Isn't it lovely that our
Yes, and
best stuff just comes through us?
yes, and I will say, I mean, part of my story and my journey has been overcoming the self-doubt of that whole process, or the
Oh,
comparison of seeing other people and saying, "Oh, well, looks like it's coming really easily to them. Like, what am I doing
yeah,
wrong?" And not necessarily appreciating the ease in which it does happen sometimes, where when you don't even
yeah,
notice, right? So I've
yeah,
come a long way
yeah,
with that, of course, but that's part of that process too, is like you need to open yourself up, you need to let go of all the stuff and embrace it and own it for yourself in order for it to become a part of you that is actually very seamless in a lot of ways.
yes, yes. And especially for smart people. I tell my clients all the time because I tend to work with overeducated people like myself, and we have a harder time because we've been
Right.
so patterned to getting straight A's in school, and it's all happening in
Yeah.
our logical brain, and that's what we're seen for and applauded for and paid well for. And when the
Yeah.
intuition starts to rise, or the body mind connection, when the body begins to revolt, for example, and go, oh, hell no, you're listening to me now.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have the hardest time softening and surrendering to that because we're like, no, 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 I'm the smart person. I'm going to figure it out all on my own, and I don't need anybody's help, and nobody could do it like I can do it, and I'm so special. Ay, ay,
Yeah.
ay, busted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Behind
Yeah.
every person's story is a body that revolted.
Ha, behind every person's story is a body that revolted. Yes, yes, I bet you listening can relate. There has been a time where your body has revolted and oh man, it really gets your attention. Was there a time
Yes.
where your body revolted, where you hit an exhaustion point or something, maybe when you had the girls, or what was that like for your journey?
Yeah, I had a few, because it's talking to us all the time and we can
Yeah.
keep forgetting. But one that was really impactful for me, of course, I had the whole recovery after the birth of my
Yeah.
girls and everything. But the one that I go back to more often when I share stories is when I eventually decided to leave corporate, actually,
Okay.
because I woke up one morning and it's such a weird thing to describe, but my whole mouth was hurting and my teeth felt like they were going to fall out.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was wild. I literally went to the mirror to look at them. I was like, what's happening? Like, are they
Uh,
still here?
uh.
And then I called my dentist, which,
Yeah.
like, who needs to make an emergency dental appointment? I don't know. I mean, besides for, like a tooth breaking, right? But
Hmm.
um, I called and I took an appointment and I went in because I was like, something is wrong with my mouth.
Yeah.
And I was worried
Yeah.
about my teeth, my jaw,
Yeah.
everything. And he said, I was basically severely grinding my teeth from stress at night.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
this was like close to when I was then really like things were not working.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, like what's going on here? And then a frank conversation with my husband, he was like, is this worth it? And
Right.
like what, because he knew like what I was putting in on nights and weekends, and everything. And I just said, okay, like I guess like it's time, it's time for
Wow.
something to change.
Wow. And then what happened? Like, what was the shift like for you? Was it easy and graceful, or was it kind of crunchy?
It was a little hard for me, I think, because I had been working for so long and like pretty much with the same company for most
Mm.
of that time. There
Mhm.
was a transition with a spinoff, and I took a promotion to go to that organization, but I still had such loyalty that like it still felt hard. But
Yeah.
when that happened with my teeth, and when I realized that, okay, I have to continue to have this grueling travel schedule that I don't want to have.
Uh-huh.
And it started to feel more and more unnecessary in some ways. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, like this is
Mm-mm.
not it.
Yeah.
But it still
Okay.
felt hard to let go. And I think if I didn't have such a friction with that situation, I probably would have tried to hang on longer, actually.
Mhm. Yeah, I
But
hear that.
I'm grateful that it didn't go that way.
Body
Um,
revolt.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it can feel hard. It can feel sticky. It can feel
Mhm.
like I know people like they won't even take a call with another company. Like they're so loyal to one
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
you know, but at the end of the day, like I said, all right, this is not good. And like my body's telling, and that was way before I was really made so much aware of the mind body connection. That was one of my first really like,
Yeah.
okay, it's really speaking to me, you
And
know?
that's how it is. I feel like the body forces us. People are like, "Oh, well, have you always been super woo?" And I'm like, "No, my life
No.
forced me to get woo. My
Yeah.
body forced me to get woo. My
Yeah.
situation, I am an accidental psychic. It was sort of an accident. It was sort of was look.
Yeah.
It's great, but I wasn't looking for it, and it wasn't, and I think that's it's a good thing to normalize that as we move through life, different things open up in us that we never thought possible. And what are you going to do? Here it is. It's not like a big, and now I will be this. It's like, oh, and now I can no longer
Yeah.
handle, survive, put up with this
Yeah.
situation. There's no
Yeah.
choice but to change.
Yes. 1000%. Yes.
People are like, "Oh, you're so brave for changing." I'm like, I guess so, but I didn't really feel like I had a
Yeah.
choice. I was like, I'm just trying to get through this thing. And yeah, but oh, tell me about human design. So tell me about your human design for those, and maybe just give us an overview of what it is. Maybe some listeners haven't yet gone down the rabbit hole with us on human design.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So human design, I look at human design as a tool that shows you how your energy works and basically your unique blueprint. And it's a lot really about the mind body connection. So it's showing you the places like of how your body is meant to operate energetically. And the premise behind human design is that we're conditioned our whole lives, right? Like from everything, life experiences, family, friends, school, all of it. And using human design as a tool, you kind of shed some of those layers, peel back those layers of the onion, and you see like, who are you really before everyone else told you who to be and
Yeah.
what to do and all of
Yeah.
the things.
Yeah.
So I like to use human design very practically, surprise, surprise. and and I like to use it to work with people on how they make decisions
Mhm.
because a lot of the time we're making decisions from our mind.
Mhm.
We are overthinking things 10 ways to whatever,
Yeah.
and really at the end of the day, it's our bodies that are meant to they're showing us all the time, but we're usually just
Mhm.
burying it or not listening. Our
Yeah.
bodies are meant to help us with that decision making process. So
Mhm.
I like to weave that in as as an early thing for people in the human design process as to like, all right, what do you want? There's so many things you can know about it, and there's a lot of fantastic things in the rabbit hole and all of that.
Yes. It's a system and it's based on your date and time of birth, kind of like astrology
Yeah,
is, but it's a different system and it's
it's
a
totally different.
complex system. So it helps to have someone with an engineering degree who's learned to synthesize it, who
Yeah.
can use it like a tool like that with precision. So, what is your human design?
Yeah. So I'm a 3-5 self projected projector.
You're a projector. Okay, I'm a projector too. I was
Are you?
wondering about that when I saw you holding the nest for people. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
maybe she's a projector. Okay,
What's
cool.
what's your profile? Like, what are your
I'm a
two
one
numbers?
three.
Okay.
I'm an
Yeah.
ego defined
Okay.
projector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
good.
I just gotta say, when I learned that I was a projector and then I saw the map of the empty centers, and then I read
Yes.
just even the basics of what it said about me, about how people can experience, I guess, us as like penetrative and really like up in their
Yeah.
business unless they've seen us, recognized what we are, and invited
Hmm.
us in. I was
Hmm.
just like, like all the
Yeah.
stories of my life went into order when I learned. I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God, yes, you just put words to something that I've experienced my whole life from childhood
Yes.
and didn't have
Yes.
words for. And that's a good system when it can do that. That is so rad.
Yeah. It's like for me, it was like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Can't
And there
unsee
were
it.
just so many things. And I think very often for projectors, it's very life-changing because, we're a smaller percentage of the population. I mean, I would argue the same thing for manifestors and reflectors too.
Hmm.
I mean, every type has its own things that you're usually brought up to work as a different energy than the one you really are. And
Yes.
so by learning about it, you can see so much about yourself and have like the amount of times people have told me like it makes so much sense to them or it's given them permission for something that they've always felt embarrassed about or stressed about or whatever
Yeah.
the thing is.
Yeah.
Like it's a game changer,
It's a
really.
game changer. It really is. It really is. I love that you integrate that into your work and that you are coming from this kind of lens of the body and the mind and how they can work together in the most efficient, delightful, satisfying way. It's
Yeah.
just it's ironic and funny that we don't learn this stuff in all the school we've gone to. Nobody teaches this stuff and life kind of hammers you until you're forced to learn it. But how
Yeah.
wonderful when people can learn it ahead of time and maybe avoid some of the hammering.
Well, I'm doing my best to raise my children by their design as much as possible
Yes. Oh, that's
because
beautiful.
it feels very important. It feels
Yeah, it
very
is.
important.
It is. And like, for anyone listening, you're a leader, understanding the human design, mostly of yourself, but also of your team and
Yeah.
um, different people that you're working with, collaborators, vendors, clients, everybody makes
Yeah.
such a huge difference. And I love that you weave that into the work that you're doing. It's like a secret weapon in a way. Like it's really a tool that you use it all the time once you understand it, and it really helps so much with collaborating and communicating and negotiations.
Yeah, because half of building relationships and working with people in like a cohesive, collaborative way is understanding each other. And there's
Totally.
so many systems out there, and I know a lot of the other ones too, right? Like the
Yeah.
standard personality types, thinking preferences, all those. I
Mm-hmm.
have found human design to be most accurate in many ways and deeper.
Mm-hmm. It's very
And
detailed.
it's very detailed.
Very
You can
detailed.
study it
Yeah.
for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And but with that, understanding that people are meant to make decisions different ways, right? There's
Yeah.
7 different decision-making styles,
Mm.
and some of them are meant to be made in the moment, and then other ones need to wait for their body to get to neutrality. And so if we're talking across the table with 2 completely different styles, you're not going to be able to see each other and understand each other correctly without, I mean, it brings you another level of understanding to it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is amazing. Okay, you guys. So I know at this point you want more with Mary. We've got her links in the show notes, including where to get the book, because
Yeah.
she's got incredible tools in this book. It's really fantastic. And connect with her, follow her on social media, get the book, follow up. And you know where you're going to feel whether you should connect with Mary? In your body. That's where you're going to feel it. So drop in, take a few breaths, and feel her. And when you recognize her energy and you realize, whoa, I want that structure, I want that that mesh underwear. What that? Like, I want to feel like I'm held, like I'm contained, like there's room for me to be put together and to be cohesive and come from my center. Then, hi, follow that inclination because that's your wisdom speaking. Thanks for being here, Mary. Really appreciate you and all your work
Thank
you're
you so
doing.
much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun, and I love your work as well. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.